Today I have Sandra, who is from Switzerland, and she lives in Japan since 2018. And she is married to a Japanese man. They have a 2-year-old son, Leo, and soon to have another son, right?
Yeah,
You
a
are
few
pregnant now
days.
in a few days.
Yes, anytime now. I hope not now.
Anytime, not now. Hi, Sandra. Thank you for being my guest in your late pregnancy.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so today I would like to learn more about what it is like to be married to a Japanese man and raising a child or soon 2 children, and the cultural differences in Japan.
Sure.
But before we start, of course, I have my unconventional question. And okay, so you are from Switzerland, the German part, right? Was it St.
German
Gallen? What's
St.
the name?
Gallen,
St. Gallen,
exactly.
yeah.
Very good.
And of course, I'm from Germany, so Switzerland is just our neighbor. But I wonder, when you tell people from Japan you are from Switzerland, so it's so far away, it's such a small country. How do they react? What do they think, or what do they know about Switzerland? What are the stereotypes or the reactions?
So the first thing that always comes up is Heidi.
Heidi, really?
Everybody knows Heidi because the guy that made the animation from Heidi, he's Japanese. So it's super popular in Japan. And everybody's like, wow, Heidi, you live in the Alps. Do you have cows? Do you make your own cheese? I'm like, no, it's actually not like that. But yeah, Switzerland is beautiful. And then the next thing is like, oh, Takai. So it's like really expensive, right? And the watches and chocolate, of course, like the stereotypes. But a lot of Japanese people, they also mistake it with Sweden. So they was like, why are you not blonde? Like, what's going on? So this is funny.
Okay,
Yeah.
just because of the same Sweden, Switzerland, because it's the same as loud.
Yeah, I don't know why. And a few years ago, there was the World Cup, Sweden against Switzerland. And then many people texted me, I didn't know there's 2 different countries. I'm like, oh, really? Yeah. But the most people, they mention Heidi and chocolate and cheese.
I didn't know.
Overall, very positive.
Right. I didn't know the drawer was Japanese. Do you know his name?
I have no idea, but he's really, really famous, apparently, because I'm not really into animation, but he's really, I need to Google it.
Yeah, I will do. Interesting. Okay, thank you, Sandra. Okay, let's jump in our topic. So my first question would be, what is it like to be pregnant in Japan? What are some differences that you experienced so far?
So this is my second pregnancy, and in my first one, I had really no idea what to expect and what I want. And so my husband and I, we just wanted the safest way. So we chose a big university hospital and very Japanese. And in Japan, you have a lot of checkups. So in Switzerland, I think in total you have 3 ultrasounds. And otherwise, you just go to see the midwife and they listen to the heartbeat, but no ultrasounds. And for me, I had an ultrasound every 1 month, and towards the end, every 2 weeks. And then at the end, every 1 week. So I had lots of ultrasounds. And in that big hospital, I was just a number. That shocked me a lot because I expected like a bit emotional support for me as a pregnant lady too. But it was like in and out, 5 minutes and no questions being asked. Like I couldn't ask anything. And that was a bit a shocker. So now in the second time around, I know exactly what I want. And I'm in a like maternity clinic now, and it's much more personal. And they take like every time like 30 minutes or even more to answer my questions. And of course, a lot of ultrasound as well. Yeah. And funny things is like my mother-in-law always makes sure like I should wear socks, or like my belly has to be warm, and I should drink like a bit warm drinks, like not ice cold. So this is cute, like a little, like I don't think in Switzerland we would care about in the summer if your feet are warm or like your belly is warm. or if you drink tea.
Yeah, it's something that a lot of women here experience, right?
So
covering ankles and making sure you are very warm even in the hot Tokyo summer. May I ask, what hospitals were you in last time, or what's the name now?
Last time I was in Kyorin. Kyorin is in Mitaka. It's really safe. Like if you want to go the safe way, it's good because they're really like over careful with everything. But for you as a human, it's like nothing. So you get your service, like you will be taken care of, the baby will be taken care of, but there's nothing more. And I needed more like emotional support because I had my baby right at the start of the pandemic. So my parents couldn't come and I was completely alone. I mean, probably as you were. So and this time around I gave birth in Ikuryo in Meguro.
That's popular, right?
Moment, and it's really nice. And price-wise, like I thought it's much more expensive, but we paid a lot in the university hospital as well. So if I can choose like emotional support and nice environment, so I would always go for the Ikuryo again.
It's for sure a personal choice, but I did the same thing. I needed the emotional comfort.
Because in Switzerland, I used to work in the hospital with newborn babies and the moms, and just seeing the difference, like how we treated the postpartum ladies and how they treated me in the hospital, it was just like, what is going on here? Like, I don't know, I felt so,
Plus, you probably get the skin-to-skin possibility after giving birth and all that, right?
So, that's very important.
Yeah, nice.
So what I would say, like, just make sure what you want, what you expect. And it's really hard when it's your first time because you have no idea.
Right. And for your first time, when your son was born, what are some differences that you notice when raising? Of course, you never had a child in Switzerland, but I assume you still notice some differences when it comes to handling newborns in Japan or having,
the first big difference is like in Japan, you stay longer in the hospital. I think in Switzerland it's 3 days. So like 2 nights and 3 days. And because it was my first one, I stayed in total like 7 days, like 6 days. Like the day you give birth is day 1, and then 0, and then 6 days. So like 7 days in total, which is nice, especially if you're a first time mom and you get three times hot meals. And this is something I realized. And in Japan, it's very important for the mom to rest for 1 month. So usually they go to their mother's house and they stay there for 1 month and they just recover and they don't really go outside with the baby. And I tried to do that, but it was impossible because I need sunshine and I need to go for a walk a little bit. So and this Kyorin was really strict with the food restrictions for me, so that I get a lot of milk. So they said I can only eat rice and soup and I shouldn't eat this and that. And we don't really have this much in Switzerland. So I was so confused, like, what should I follow? Like, which way, the Swiss way or Japanese way? And
yeah, wow. And so it's funny. So did they also tell you not to eat sweets during at the beginning when you breastfeed?
Yes,
because the milk gets no chocolate, right? And
when my baby was crying a lot, it was because I ate chocolate. Or if my baby has an upset stomach, it was because I ate chocolate. Because I love chocolate. So quite strict.
Quite strict. And who told you actually not to go out with Leo the first month after he was born? Was it the hospital or your mother-in-law?
It's like not really a rule, but it's like an unspoken rule. Like everybody just does it. But I think maybe now it's a little bit changing. But I think the older generation is really strict. But my mother-in-law, like, she didn't say anything because she knows I needed that. But Of course, she would have loved if I just stay at home.
But did she stay with you, or did you go all to see her, or I don't know, does she
They
live in
live
your area?
10, 15 minutes from us, like in our old place. So they came and did the grocery shopping. Like they would come maybe 3 times a week.
Okay, that's a good help.
Yeah.
And how about different sleeping habits? I hear a lot then when the when the newborns are getting babies and are not newborns anymore, then, for example, you should not use a blanket or you shouldn't use a pillow here in Japan. Actually, that's what we are told, like at least in Europe. But here in Japan, I know they use blankets for the little ones and maybe also pillows. What's your experience?
Yeah, like if you go to Akachan Honpo or Nishimatsuya, you can buy like these sets, and it's like with a pillow and a big blanket, like down blanket, I don't know, and mattress. And actually, I had no idea before I had Leo that you shouldn't use this kind of things. And then we just bought this set, and then I did my research, and I'm like, oh, you're not supposed to, because it's actually quite dangerous. But even in the hospital, I think my baby was always covered up until here with a thick blanket. And yeah, that's different, I think, to Switzerland too. We just dress the baby warm and then just on the mattress. And the sleeping situation is super different too, because in Switzerland, it's not uncommon that they separate the baby from like 4 months and put them in their own room. But I think because Japan has really small apartments, it's not really possible. So I think a lot of families, they share their bed with their kids. And we as a family, we do it too. Like Leo still sleeps between me and my husband. And for a lot of my friends and family in Switzerland, this is like, what are you doing? Like, what? But this is super normal now for me, and I really like it. And we are also planning, once the baby's bigger, like 4 months, that the baby can sleep in our bed too. But I don't know how long. Like, I don't want to do it until he's like 6. But yeah, soon-ish, it would be nice if he can move to his own room. But for now, it's good for me and my husband, and we like it. Yeah, but from Switzerland, the reactions are funny.
Yeah, experienced the same thing, exactly.
Really?
We attached now our daughter's bed to our bed, and so it's open on one side, and for us it's a pretty good solution because we can pet her at night when she wakes up, or
we get
she
much
can
more
just
sleep, I think.
Yes, and she can just roll over in our bed, or before, when her bed was really separate and she couldn't, it was like a cage, right, like a little prison. She couldn't even get out of it, so she would just cry in the morning, and now she just goes out, and I don't know, eventually she gives us a kiss in the morning, but sometimes she just yells in our ear.
So
Yeah, so for us it was a good solution to kind of put the beds together. And
we actually had a really nice bed, but then he fell twice out of it, and then we're like, oh no, so we got rid of it, and now we just have like our mattress on the floor, and we have 2 double mattresses, so we have a huge bed. It's so nice. Like sometimes we sleep like completely random. So for me, this is, I think, even if I would have kids now in Switzerland, I would do it this way because it's much easier and less stressful for me as a mom. Yeah,
and when you look back in the ancient cultures, it's or when you ask like more traditional tribes how the babies sleep, I mean, they don't even understand why would you put your baby away from you,
So, yeah, I don't know, it's just normal. And all the animals like keep their baby with them. I don't mind.
And were there any other things like comments or suggestions from maybe your parents-in-law or other Japanese friends or neighbors that were surprising for you?
Yeah, so like I got a lot of suggestions and like like especially with breastfeeding or like once we started solids, because I did the baby-led weaning, and it's not that. I mean, it's coming up now in Japan too, but some people are like really shocked that I gave him this whole broccoli piece. But I mean, it was cooked; it wasn't raw. Like they in Japan, they have like really nice cookbooks for the like recipe books with like rice porridge, and you put the fish, and it's like super healthy. But you need to feed with the spoon, and I didn't want that. So some people are really like confused that I'm not following this way, and they were worried that Leo is not gonna eat anything or like not enough, and yeah.
Can you shortly explain baby-led what it means?
It means like that you don't really feed the baby, like you let the baby feed itself. So you, for example, you give him the broccoli sprout, and then they can try to get it and eat, or like avocado, and you prepare the food like the age according. And it's more like fun exploring for the kid, and it's good for the hands. So you let the baby feed itself by its own pace, because if you feed with the spoon, you maybe overfeed it, or like the baby is already full and doesn't want, but you still put it in, and like that they can just like play and eat, and once they're done, they stop by themselves. And I don't know, like I really liked it with Leo, and he's not picky at all. He eats like everything, and by himself. I don't need to help. Of course, it's messy sometimes, but yeah, I really like it.
And, I assume it's also less work. I always experience other Japanese moms like preparing super fancy bentos, and also like cooking more at once and freezing then food, and it looked very amazing, and but it also looked like a lot of work.
Of work. So yeah, exactly.
How about soy sauce? Don't they give soy sauce pretty early to children here?
Yeah, and mirin too, like the cooking sake. Like I asked my mother-in-law to help me. Like I wanted that Leo gets the taste of Japan too, and I don't really know how to prepare it for kids. So I was a little bit surprised, but they only put a little bit of soy sauce, and there is this special soy sauce with like without sodium. But you need to know like which brand, and I can't really read kanji, so it's impossible. But my mother-in-law, like she showed me, and like also which fish is good and how to prepare it, and she made it for me, and I just gave it to Leo and gave him the spoon so he can try to feed himself, which is super messy, but he got the taste of Japan. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, great. I love the cultural differences.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah. How about, have you experienced when you go outside with Leo, I don't know, in a park or water park, that maybe Japanese parents are more careful with their kids? I always have an impression that we leave our daughter run around freely and experience her, like, I don't know. Of course, we are in a way careful and pay attention, but compared to the Japanese, I always sometimes feel like a bad mom because I just let her go,
Yeah, I think that's our culture. Like, just let the child explore and get dirty and play. Like, yeah, I kind of like when Leo gets dirty, like if he goes in the sandpit, or like if he climbs up and like feels his limit. And of course I make sure that he's safe. But like the other day I went to the park and I met this mom, and there's this slide. It's like quite high, but Leo is super good now. Like he can climb up and slide down by himself because we practiced several times. And her child is actually a few months older, but he couldn't even climb the stairs because mom's like, no, I'm not, like, be careful, and like super scared. And then I could feel like she's so nervous around this slide. So I said, okay, let's go maybe to the sandpit. And then we went to the sandpit, and after she had to wash the hands with soap and like really carefully. And Leah was just really dirty, but I felt like it's okay. So I don't know, like this, I feel a lot. Or like the dirt, like they don't like when the kids get dirty. Not all of them, but I see a lot with always wiping and or like explore their limits. I think, they're super careful. I think that's a big cultural difference.
Yeah.
But not my husband. My husband is not like that at all. Like he's a bit too much. Like sometimes I'm like, can you please watch him? Like I don't know. Yeah.
Very different, yes. Nice. Yeah, about the dirt, I experienced that a lot too. And I don't know if I say that in Switzerland, but I think in Germany we say, it's actually good to expose them to some dirt so they can get some resistance.
Get stronger. I always say it's good for the immune system, so I don't mind. This is another thing. Like this is like my husband and I, we have pretty similar views, like how we want to raise our kids, and so we don't really have that much arguments about it. But one thing is, which annoys me a lot, is when Leo is sick. I think it's good that he's sick, so his body is fighting. And of course, if he has a high fever, I give him the medicine I have from Switzerland, extra for kids. But my husband wants to go immediately to the hospital, like if there is a cough and a fever. And this is a really, really big difference that we have. Like, I think I grew up, like my mother is very, how do you say, green. Like she likes homeopathic medicine. And so I'm like in between, but I don't know, running for every cough to the doctor is insane for me. So whenever Leo is sick, he's like, oh, let's take him to the doctor. I'm like, no, just give him 1 or 2 days. And then, and then if it, like, I mean, if you have a fever, it can take 3 days to fix, right?
Right.
I mean, and then it's like, no, it's the second day. We need to go to the doctor. I'm like, really?
So interesting. I'm exactly on the same page. Yeah. Yeah, they immediately give medicine, right, to the kids.
Yeah, and antibiotica, like so fast. And this is something that really, really bothers me.
Right.
Like, I think the healthcare here is really good, but why you have to give a little child antibiotics? And then once I asked, and they said, if it doesn't work, we know it's not a virus. We know it's bacteria, or like the opposite. I don't know. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah, and it's from my point of view, it's so important that the child, has to fight or learn to. The body actually has to learn to fight the virus on its own.
Exactly.
I mean, of course, to a certain extent. I'm not talking if you have a fever for a week or 5 days. Of course, you have to do something, but. Well, different cultures, different habits. Okay, Sandra, I know Leo. You have Leo soon to watch him, so I don't want to take too much of your time. But maybe I can ask you one last question. Is there anything you would share with other foreign moms who are married to a Japanese and will soon have a baby, or are maybe new in a international marriage? Some last thoughts or advice or something you like to share?
The biggest thing I learned from my first pregnancy here in Japan is, like, I think your Japanese spouse wants to have like the safest way for you, and he wants you to be like medically well taken care of, I think. So that was my case. So we just chose the University Hospital, and it was good because it was being safe was the highest priority. But I would really, really think what is important for you and make a list and write it down, and then go to see a lot of different clinics, because it's for free. Like, you can just go and see and talk to them, and make sure like the points you write down there, they do that, because otherwise it's just so frustrating, and you're not satisfied, and then the whole experience with your newborn is like a bit bad because it's not how you expected it to go. And so this time around, like, it's the second time, I knew exactly what I want. My husband knew exactly what I want, and he is my translator, so he knows what to ask for, and he knows what to say, and he knows exactly what I need. But in the first time around, he had no idea, and we weren't like confident to speak up against the doctor, because you don't do this in Japan.
Right.
But we learned actually you can, because it's your body and you should do it. And we were just both like, "Hai, wakarimashita, hai." Like we didn't say anything, and then whatever they decided, we just followed like sheeps, like okay. And in the end, I was really not satisfied, and he was not happy because I was not happy. So it gave us a lot of stress that we could have avoided. So short answer, just really, really make sure what you want, what you need, and tell your husband clearly what you need, so he can, if he's your translator, like translate for you and say exactly what you need. And then it's so much easier and so much better experience.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for sharing this. I think it's also, it's so important to advocate for yourself, and even, or not even, and if you have a Japanese husband or a Japanese speaking partner, it's getting a little bit easier.
Yeah. And I'm like the person, I don't want to make trouble, so I just say okay, yes. And like I don't really, I feel like no, I don't want to have any like inconvenience for them, so I just follow. But I realize it's my body, my baby, my life, so I should really, really say what I want, of course, polite and nicely. And you can do that, especially if your husband is Japanese, because they respect them and listen to them. So
totally agree. It's your life, it's your baby, your pregnancy, and you have to feel well. I used to be like that too, to just say yes, and because authority and respect. But I mean, you can be respectful and still say what is important for you. I mean, at the end, you are also the client there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Great. Before we come to an end, Sandra, I would like to present also your channel, because you actually have a YouTube channel where you talk about your international marriage, about life in Japan, and about traveling. And it's in English and Japanese, is that correct? No,
yes,
it's just and both. Yeah. And it's called Sandra and Yusuke.
Sandra and Yusuke.
Yusuke. Yes. Okay. I will put it in the show notes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your experience.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you so much.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.